discovery. And as they were all into their conversations and they were rattling between each other, what is the correct definition of poetry? A poet was passing by. He heard all of the conversation. And as he went to the group of the people, and the people there asked the poet, so according to you, what is the correct definition of poetry? The poet said, all of you are right. He said, how can all of us be right? We are looking for one definition. He said, all of you are right because poetry has no definition. It consists of every emotion, every magic, every love, romance, discovery, moments, and everything that this universe consists. Poetry is that. And when we don't define poetry, when we are not looking for the exact meaning of poetry, it is then when we can understand the true meaning of it. Ladies and gentlemen, with this, I like to share my own personal experience about poetry. So I never had one favorite poet because I love the poetries except the poet. And whenever I read poetries, I never look for the name of the poet because I think when I look for the name, I will somewhere be biased in the meaning or in the assumption of that poetry. And I love reading poetries for that one very reason is that it's just a magic that starts with something and ends with the whole different life meaning. And today we have a very brilliant poet with us. And to give his introduction, it is going to be less, but I am going to try my best. Sayantan is a student of mass communication by day and an aspiring writer by night. Sayantan is a fusion of motivational ideas and soul healing literature. He is a senior writer with a page called The Pen Wielders, with which he has been associated for more than 2 years now. One of the his write-ups was selected to be posted on the famous Instagram page Poem Spawn, and the garnered over 35,000 likes and 200 comments. He also writes regularly with another page, The Literary Fairy Tale, and his work has been posted by many other pages as well. He has participated in many open mics and storytellings. He has published many of his poetries, and though he has been published in a few anthologies, this does not satisfy him. Hence, he is in the process of putting together all his poems to be published as a full-fledged book. And to all the Toastmasters, ladies and gentlemen, how can we miss this point? Sayantan is a passionate Toastmaster and considers the forum the perfect place to connect with people and touch lives with just words from across the stage. And I am so inspired by reading about his introduction and to soon call upon a stage. Let me tell you, for all those who have just entered today in the room, that today's meeting is divided into 3 sections. First, where our keynote speaker will be delivering. Second is where you all can take part. That's a reading session. And each one of us, whoever wants to participate, can give their names. And according to that, we will call the people. They have to read a particular part of the poetry. After which, we will be moving on to the question and answer session. And then is the voting part. Without wasting time, I like to call an amazing and super poet, Toastmaster Sayantan. The stage is all yours.
Good evening, leaders and readers out here. Indeed, leaders are readers, and thank you, Shrejita, for that wonderful introduction. I don't think I have ever read my introduction that well. Thank you for that. And I welcome you all to this session today here, because it's going to rain words today, as I said in my video as well. Now, before we begin, I would request all of you to just turn on your videos if possible. Let's look at each other, and when I'm boring you, I can then understand from your faces. Okay, that is better. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It's wonderful to be here. Now, I'm sure that all of you have come across poetry in various different ways. If you have a girlfriend or a boyfriend, you must have at least written a poetry, and if not written, went to Google, found out a poetry to send to that person, right? How many of you have done this? I have. Good. So we are on the right place where we can discuss about poetry. But that is what we, the millennials and the modern, do. If you go back and check history and find in the history books or on Google, you'll see that poetry has played a key role in even inspiring the freedom struggle of India. Back then, poems by Rabindranath Tagore, poems like Where the Mind is Without Fear, had inspired so many freedom fighters to fight for the motherland, to fight to bring back our country from the British Raj. But then, doesn't all this trigger a question in your mind? What is in poetry that makes it so powerful, that makes poetry be what it is? Well, half of my job has already been done by Shrejita when she mentioned that very beautiful story about poetry. But still, so let me ask somebody, what is your view of poetry? What is the definition of poetry according to you? Not Shrejita, I know what you're going to speak. So, anybody.
Poetry is all about the feeling of a person who or she feel about him or herself. For someone, it could be any instance, it could be anything which we feel by heart.
Thank
Poetry is the magic and it's the way of expressing your emotion.
Okay, those were poetic definitions of poetry. Thank you, Chanda and Amrit, for those wonderful definitions. But then I would agree with what Shajita said because poetry has no definition. Yes, it's emotions. It is all that we have in our heart and we pour out in the form of words. But poetry is not something that can be bound by definition. Poetry is just like this splattered color on a white canvas. You know, when we are children, we take a blank canvas, we take a pencil, and then we start outlining on it. And then we fill the colors. As we grow up, we let go of that pencil, directly get hold of the paintbrush, and start painting. And as we become pro in painting further, we now don't even paint with outlines. Even with the brush, we just take the brush and put color and we just make anything. And mind you, that anything also makes a lot of sense. That is poetry. Poetry is clubbing together words so that they form a meaning. But then that does not have to have a definition. It is anything. There are so many forms of poetry: haikus, there are ballads, there are sonnets, then there are free verse poetries. So there is everything. There is something for each one of us. That is what makes poetry different from other pieces of literature. Then there is a limited use of words. If you see, a poetry has around 7 or 8 words maximum in a sentence, in a line. And then there are also around some 40, 50 lines. Unless you're trying to read Paradise Lost by John Milton. So, most of the poetry have limited use of words, and because it is limited, the writer, the poet, has to use the best word that conveys the meaning in his heart. While in other pieces of prose and literature, you can settle for a word that's quite near to the actual meaning. In poetry, you need to choose the exact words that convey your meaning. And that makes poetry different again, because here you cannot settle for a different word. Poetry has a more readable approach. Like, can anybody read this paragraph for me? It's from Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost. Yes, sure. Sure, Amrit.
Whose woods these are, I think I know. His house is in the village, though. He will not see me stopping here to watch his woods fill up with snow.
Thank you, Amrit. You read very well. So, if you see these lines here, the first line is independent in itself. The second one is continued in the third and the fourth. But in the second one has a semicolon and is somewhat independent in itself. But the third and the fourth lines, these are two different parts of the same line, having individual independent meaning in each. And they have been separated into two different lines in a more readable approach. Now, what I have done here is I kind of did what Robert Frost would maybe kill me for, but I took up the same words and I clubbed them in the form of a prose. Now, does this look like something that will attract you immediately? The first one, this is more attractive for anybody and any reader. And that makes poetry different from other pieces of prose again. Then there is also liberty of expression. Any form of literature is an expression of something that's in our heart. And poetry gives you all the liberty that you as a writer would want. Because here's another paragraph from the same poem. Now, if I read this, the woods are lovely, dark, and deep, but I have promises to keep, and miles to go before I sleep, and miles to go before I sleep. In any other prose, you wouldn't find a same sentence being repeated twice, simultaneously, consecutively. But in poetry, you get that freedom. Because when you want to emphasize on something particular, you can repeat it twice, you can repeat the same words, you can come up with words like lovely, dark, and deep. These three adjectives have a broader meaning than just their actual dictionary meaning in poetry. That is an expression and the liberty that you as a writer have to use words and sentences continuously and consecutively to emphasize what is the important part. And you as a reader can interpret it in your own way, can find out which sentence and which line connects to you the most. Now that this is why poetry is different, but then if anything is different, that is not a reason why you should be attracted towards it. Why do you read poetry? Okay, so how many of you read poetry? Okay, Amrit does. Vignesh also does. So Vignesh, can you tell me why do you read poetry?
Well, you know how the poets describe about the nature or other things, and through them, how they see it is their way of observing the things. That's what I like in reading poems.
Okay, thank you, Vignesh. So Vimanyu just turned on his video. Do you also want to add to it? Why do you read poetry?
Yeah. So I think I should keep my video turned off as of now. So, so basically, I occasionally read poetry, and the reason is because I never understand it, and the things which I am unable to understand, I think I find them more fascinating. So maybe your session might help me then.
Okay, thank you, Vimanyu. Now, yeah, these are two very important reasons to read poetry. With Vignesh, I would agree the descriptions. And for Vimanyu, I have something for you at the end, so stick to it. So the primary reason why you should read poetry is because it takes less time to read. Again, not talking about Paradise Lost or Ovid's Metamorphoses, but generally a poem takes around 5 to 10 minutes to read, or sometimes even 15-20. But that's some time we can devote out of our busy schedule. Poetry helps you understand the depth. Now, poets have a very bad habit of not telling what they want directly. While they can also tell, while they can also say that they want a glass of water, they would go around saying that my somewhere inside my neck there is a weird feeling. There is a desire for that which showers from the heaven, and with the power of the sun goes back there. Yeah, this is what poets do. Go and find out in the poems. But when they do this, they help you realize and understand the depth of this world and make you look at things from a totally different and new perspective. Now, if you have a poet friend or somebody who's inclined towards poetry, and you go to him with the minutest of problem, he would take it to a whole another philosophical level. Had anybody have this problem? I'm sure you had, because when my friends come with the even the simplest of problem, like maybe WhatsApp not working, I take it to a whole another level. But when poets do this, you see, they make you look at things from a totally new perspective, and that helps you. When your boss will tell you in the morning, you are the best employer this company has, you understand that your boss needs some favor from you. Okay, just kidding with that, but poetry will make you see all the things around you and analyze them, and will also make you think much more than you would normally if you don't read poetry. It is therapeutic. Yes. It does not matter if you are going through blues because you broke up, or it's the lockdown that's keeping you locked in your house. But poetry has a therapeutic essence in it. If you read poetry, you would find a very different sense of calmness and serenity in you. It will make your heart go warm, and you would not feel any sort of negative thoughts. So when you are feeling any sort of negativity, just go around reading a happy poetry. And trust me, that will make a difference. And then poetry improves your vocabulary. As I said, poetry has the use of the best word. You cannot settle for a word that's near to what you mean. It has to be the exact word. Poetry will make you go through the dictionary and improve your vocabulary. And there are so many different poetic devices that are used as well: similes, metaphors, alliterations, and those will improve your regular communication and structuring of sentences in any particular language. But then, even with these reasons, many people don't read. Why? Because poetry often takes time to decipher. As I said, poets have the bad habit of not directly saying that they want a glass of water. So you, as a reader, would have to maybe read it twice or thrice. As Abu mentioned poetry, maybe you would have to read it twice today in that 1.5 minutes. So because poetry makes you read it twice and think over it, many people are discouraged that I would rather read a piece of literature that directly sees what it means, and not something that will make me think on a whole new level. Many of you would prefer watching a movie that talks directly rather than watching Joker. If you watched the latest Joker, you would know what I mean. But that is what discourages you from reading poetry often. And even if you've given the time to actually think about it, often you start wondering, am I thinking right? Is this what the poet meant? Or am I thinking too much, too hard? Because of the subjective nature of poetry, you have this thought. And this again somehow discourages people. And this particular fact has also been proven in a study in the US. And then poetry is too imaginative. Yeah, we live in a practical world where we are told from our childhood, study hard so that you can get into a good college, so that you can get into a good job, so that you start earning good. And poetry is a world of imagination. In fact, when Robert Frost was writing, stopping by the woods on a snowy evening, it was on the Christmas Eve when he had actually gone to the city from his village to sell certain commodities. But he was unable to sell anything. And while he was returning, he saw the woods fill up with snow, the forest fill up with snow. And he somehow felt that the melancholy in him matched that of the snow, that of the woods, and he wrote it. Had we been there, we wouldn't be doing that. We would rather be worried how we would feed our family on that particular night. This imagination, this also discourages us sometime from reading poetry. And of course, it's a huge world. You have so many different poets and you have so many different genres. I don't know where to begin. I don't know what poetry would suit me. These are what discourages. But it does not matter. Now, here's a pyramid at the top of which stands the person who loves reading poetry. And all of us are somewhere, either at the bottom, who's going to start reading, or somewhere in the middle of the climb, or directly at the top. But I have today for all of you, whether you're at the bottom or you're at the middle or you're at the top. Tips so that you can reach the top. So, for those of you who are at the bottom, how many of you read poetry maybe once a month or don't read at all? Okay, Vimanyu, Shejita. So, this is for you guys. Start small. Start with the simplest of poetry. Maybe follow a few pages on Instagram and Facebook which post poetry. Don't go to the complicated ones, but just go through those poetries written by the millennials, written by the young poets, and you would automatically see a connect that would attract you towards poetry. Also, give yourself a target of reading at least one poetry a day. That way, you can start small, but with a strong determination. And that will be it for you. Then discover your genre of reading. Again, poetry is a huge world. Maybe I love romantic poetry. You love a poetry that talks about war. Maybe you love a poetry that talks about revolutions. So you need to find what suits you. Each day, read a different style of poetry, and you would automatically find it quite interesting and would find your genre. Once you do that, you would be more interested. And if you read what you love, it will become enjoyable. Remember that this process has to be enjoyable. This process is not a habit and is not your job. It's entertainment, it's enjoyment. Your heart should feel with warmth, and you should feel that calmness, serenity, that happiness around you. Poetry is supposed to make your life 100 times better. And I'm not talking in poetic terms or things that are impossible. Do read poetry, it's a therapy. But when you enjoy the process, you would automatically reach from the bottom to the middle. And when you are there, or for those who are already there, here's what you need to do. Read between the lines. Poets never mean they want a glass of water directly. They will say something else. So, even the simplest of the sentences by poets have a lot of meaning packed in them. You need to think and find out what the poet means there. Because when you will do it, you will automatically be more attracted towards poetry, and as Vimanyu said, that he is attracted towards things that he doesn't understand. You will automatically start reading more and more poetry that will be difficult for you. But when you do that, you will start to understand poetry. You know, for the ICSE students, when you begin Shakespeare in Standard 9, your teacher needs to give you paraphrase of each. But by the time you read one or two dramas of Shakespeare, you wouldn't need that. You would automatically start understanding Shakespeare. And that has happened. That will happen when you read poetry as well. Then discuss with people of similar interest. This book club, you have it directly, a WhatsApp group. Go to the Instagram comments. Talk to your friends. Talk to the English literature graduates maybe. And automatically, when you are sharing knowledge, you would find that there is a very different feeling to it. Not only your perceptions and perspectives will change, you will also be able to change your friends' perspectives. Because how you interpret something is not how he would interpret. And you would understand how different people interpret different pieces of poetry. And then the 21-day challenge. We know that in 21 days, something becomes a habit. So give yourself the challenge of reading one poetry a day for 21 days, and you would definitely love literature and poetry. And that way you would reach at the top. But when you want to begin and reach at the top, here are a few poetries to start with: Where the Mind is Without Fear by Rabindranath Tagore, Daffodils by William Wordsworth, Stopping by the Woods on a Snowy Evening by Robert Frost, In the Bazaars of Hyderabad by Sarojini Naidu, and The Road Not Taken by Robert Frost. Just read with these, start with these. But when you do start with those, it will be either tonight or tomorrow or the day after. Because right now, it is time to read a few poetries written by me. You've heard me for the last 20 minutes, but I want you all to know me more.
Sorry to interrupt, but the time is over.
Yes, that is why we are going to move to the section where you would get to know me more with my poetry. So, handing over to Shajita.
Thank you so much, Sayantan. That was beautiful. At the same time, it was motivating. And I hope everyone is motivated by this. And we will, some either by short or long, we will be starting reading poetries. And in the next session, I think we all will be poets by then. So moving on to the second section where STEM readers can take part, and each one of you is going to read a para, or which is divided into it, or where you will be reading a particular, at the half of the poem it's been divided, and 7 volunteers can take part in this, where where you can where you can take part and you can read it. You can read it once or you can read it twice if you're not able to understand, and in the end you will be getting 30 seconds to summarize that, and after 30 seconds you will be shown a red card. So I have one volunteer, that is, okay, so can I get a volunteer?
You can give your name on chat. You can
Yeah,
raise hand.
I'm not able to see everyone, so you can just
Chat,
send me your name
chat.
on chat.
Winter
I see
Discord
Toastmaster
never had.
guest Vignesh is there. Guest Vignesh, can you hear me? You can unmute yourself. Yes, you can start reading.
A winter this cold never had the lilies seen. Of snow the land suffocated. The copper gate remains ajar, as if welcoming me to the town of doom. The headstones stare at the intruder. What is a mortal doing where resides the dead? Somehow the winter does not bother the lilies, neither does the dead. The smoke from my cigarette is rising high. I know you never liked the idea of me smoking or drinking the sophisticatedly named whiskies from my cellar. I never told you about the cheap wine I kept hidden in my bookshelf. You used to say that I become a lunatic when I drink. Well, nothing's more intoxicating in an unenticing way than you sleeping with a cement tomb to shield you from the world rather than a bedsheet, or maybe not. The words dripping from a gaping wound is the most intoxicating poison. The blades kept on the dresser have a story to tell, and definitely not a pleasant one. The rising smoke, or the bits of it that are turning my lungs black, aren't half as soothing as pain is. I pinch at the fresh strokes of red on my wrist, my nail digging deep, resurrecting the pain that had died hours back, and freezing the words stained within veins.
Do you want to read it again?
Yeah, sure. A winter this cold never had the lilies seen. Of snow, the land suffocated. The copper gate remains ajar, as if welcoming me to the town of doom. The headstones stare at the intruder. What is a mortal doing where resides the dead? Somehow the winter does not bother the lilies, neither does the dead. The smoke from a cigarette is rising high. I know you never liked the idea of me smoking or drinking the sophisticatedly named whiskies from my cellar. I never told you about the cheap wine I kept hidden in my bookshelf. You used to say that I become a lunatic when I drink. Well, nothing's more intoxicating in an unenticing way than you sleeping with a cement tomb to shield you from the world rather than a bedsheet. Or maybe not, the words dripping from a gaping wound is the most intoxicating poison. The blades kept on the dresser have a story to tell, and definitely not a pleasant one. Rising smoke, all the bits of it that are turning my lungs black, aren't half as smooth, aren't half as soothing as pain is. I pinch at the fresh strokes of red on my wrist, my nail digging deep, resurrecting the pain that had died hours back, and freeing the words changed within veins.
Please summarize.
Uh, it starts off with winter season, and it's given that the copper gate it's open, and as if it's welcoming him to the town of doom. And when the headstone stared at that person, he is thinking, why is the mortal doing where the dead people are residing, and what does it have to do with him? And somehow the winter season does not bother the lilies, or neither does the dead person. And he also speaks about this, telling about the smoking habit, and the smoke from his cigarette is rising high, and it tells that he doesn't like the idea of me
So
you telling this
time's
about
up.
me.
Thank you, guest Vignesh. Can we have the next speaker, and that is Sakshi Sinha.
Hello, everybody. I'm Sakshi, and this is my first day at South Delhi Toastmasters, this particular book club. So, as Sayantan said, that it's very difficult to understand poetry, but I'll try my best as this is my first. So, let me just quickly start then. The white snow isn't happy at being turned red. It is inciting the trees to hit me with the chilly breeze. Or maybe that's you. You never liked me getting intoxicated. Maybe you aren't liking me getting inebriated by pain either. I throw the cigarette on the snow. The orange glow seems feeble atop the white, turning fainter by the second. Like your eyes did the day your hand turned cold in mine. And then it was only me holding yours. The lilies that have bloomed along the corners of your headstone respond to the growing wind, bending sideways and over again. Even in cold death, a life emerges. The cigarette's glow is no longer there. Tiny gray ashes remain scattered near the tip. I crumple that with my shoes and turn around, leaving you once again alone in the cold, in the comfort of lilies, to return to my blades and cigarettes and bitter wines. Maybe I'm already more dead than I'm alive.
Please
So I would like to
summarize.
try more. Yep, I'll try once more. So the white snow isn't happy at being turned red. It is inciting the trees to hit me with the chilly breeze. Or maybe that's you. You never liked me getting intoxicated. Maybe you aren't liking me getting inebriated by pain either. I throw the cigarette on the snow. The orange glow seems feeble atop the white, turning fainter by the second. Like your eyes did the day your hand turned cold in mine. And then it was only me holding yours. The lilies that have bloomed along the corners of your headstone respond to the growing wind, bending sideways and over again. Even in cold death, a life emerges. The cigarette's glow is no longer there. Tiny gray ashes remain scattered near the tip. I crumple that with my shoes and turn around, leaving you once again alone in the cold, in the comfort of lilies, to return to my blades and cigarettes and bitter wines. Maybe I'm already more dead than I'm alive. All right, so probably what my interpretation is that this particular person has lost someone very dear to him, and he's absolutely grief stricken, and he's visiting a cemetery, was what I understand. And maybe he's just trying to understand what is more painful for him, to lose the person who he dearly loved, or more, or maybe, you know, um, leading the life without that loved person. He's just trying to understand that, and that's what the confusion is. That's all I could understand, people.
Thank you, guest Sakshi.
Thanks. Thank you, Shrujita.
Thank you. The next reader is guest Anusha. Guest Anusha, the stage is all yours.
I can't see the starting. Is it starting on? Okay.
Yes,
The
yes.
Shehnai plays in the backyard. The guests come in scores. Tents are set up. Fire is also burning. The Pandit is reading the mantras. Pa, will you come to my doll's marriage? She had asked a month ago. Flashes before her father all the memories. She had dressed her two beautiful dolls in sari and in dhoti, and exchanged little garlands made of paper around a burning matchstick. Today, she sits in place of her doll. Besides her is her husband-to-be, a bike and half a lakh rupees in her dowry, and her fate broken as sharp pieces of glass. She realizes this note. Barely 10 she is for her. This is another play. She thinks she's the doll, dressed for the occasion. Minutes later, the play would be over. She would rush to hug her father, laugh and scream and eat the meager midday meal, sleep on the charpai outside in the dusty lane. Only a day later, she would realize her own home is not her home anymore. Where she had played with her dolls is no better than a memory. A new home awaits her. Strange people there to greet her. So is the life of girls in villages. To be married with a dowry, her fate isn't any better. Okay, so I'm supposed to read it again, right?
Yes, you can read again.
Okay. The Shehnai plays in the backyard. The guests come in scores. Tents are set up. Fire is also burning. The Pandit is reading the mantras. Pa, will you come to my doll's marriage? She had asked a month ago. Flashes before her father of all the memories. She had dressed her two beautiful dolls in sari and in dhoti, and exchanged little garlands made of paper around a burning matchstick. Today, she sits in place of her doll. Beside her is her husband-to-be. A bike and half a lakh rupees is her dowry, and her fate broken as sharp pieces of glass. She realizes this note. Barely 10 she is. For her, this is another play. She thinks she's the doll, dressed for the occasion. Minutes later, the play would be over. She would rush to hug her father, laugh and scream and eat the meager midday meal, sleep on the charpoy outside in the dusty lane. Only a day later, she would realize her own home is not her home anymore. Where she had played with her dolls is no better than a memory. A new home awaits her. Strange people there to greet her. So is the life of girls in villages. To be sold with a dowry. Her fate is not any better. Well, my interpretation of the poem is this is a child marriage, and it speaks of the innocence of childhood, wherein she doesn't even realize at the age of 10 she's getting married, and doesn't realize about the estrangement she's going to have from her parental family. It's a very poignant poem because it speaks of dowry, it speaks of child marriage, and it speaks of the way our society functions even today in a world which we call advanced. So it's, somebody playing with dolls is soon relegated to become a doll herself. Thank you.
Thank you, Gasanusha.
Thank
Next
you.
we have is Amrit. Amrit,
Yes.
can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'll start.
Sure.
The sunny summer had come to a close. The drops of rain were leaking from the sky. Lots of love in the air flowed, lots of emotions drizzling by. Heartbroken walked I, with a drooped rose in hand. But wait, amidst the grass in the field, I see you, curled into a white fur ball, trying to escape the disturbing heat. Lone was I, by your shine and shiver, rushed to shoo away the young, mischievous voice. The moment they ran back shouting sorry, you sprang up and barked in gratitude, your eyes gleaming like the black diamond. I lifted you up in my hands, and hence began a story of friendship and love to last and eternal. Oh, wow, this is so beautiful. So the author speaks of the fact that he's heartbroken, he's walking in the rain. The rain is very beautifully described. He sees a white ball of fur, which is an animal, either a cat or a dog. And as soon as as soon as he sees, he sort of gets mesmerized by the ball of fur. He shoos away the mischievous kids. They apologize, and that's how a beautiful love and friendship between the author and the little ball of fur starts. Shantan, is this true? Do you like animals?
I do like animals, yeah.
Very beautifully written.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, Amber. Thank you. Next we have is Toastmaster Abu. The stage is
Thank you
all
so
yours.
much. Thank you so much for the support, Vimanyu. Great. Thank you so much. Several cuddles, hugs, and kisses later, I threw the ball and you brought it back. What time you moved from milk to meat to bones, and our bond grew from stronger to strongest. I love you, my friend. You remember the days I spent crying. You would run towards my bed and with a marvelous leap lie down beside me. With your pink tongue, you would lick me all over my face, diluting my tears into a big, broad smile. You remember, my friend, the day I left my old home, sacred and perturbed by what I didn't know. Maybe demons inside the closet or monsters under the bed. Every night I would tightly hold you, feeling the warmth of our love, so pure and unbreakable. A million years I wish we stayed together, just you and I in this galaxy of stars forever. So once again, another masterpiece by Sayantan. It talks about the love. It is always believed that how pets who cannot speak can become our so eternal friends. And one of the best things that you can see is the kind of affection that they display. A simple hug from your pet is like a hug from a family member. And we would all treasure that moment if we can live forever. But destiny has something else for all of us. Let's go ahead, and when we are looking out to love another human being, let's have a scope or let's have a space for a pet as well, because they are also part of this universe. Over to you, Srajita.
Thank you. Thank you, Toastmaster Abu. Next reader we have is Toastmaster Sanika. Sanika, are you there?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. The stage is all yours.
Thank you. Yes, it's going to kill you. When you see her walk hand in hand with some guy out there, smiling happily as if it's her last day on earth, you will feel that tinge of pain. That part of your heart would suddenly crumble, as if it wasn't any better than paper. You would look at her from a distance, drowning yourself in the guilt of not being able to be the one. You will blame yourself for not being good enough, or handsome enough, or maybe tall enough. It will get worse as you will see them kiss. The carmine sun turning her black hairs tawny, passion and love rippling in her eyes. You would turn away, trying to hold your tears and not to feel the rose thorns prickling your sheen. You would have to, you had to walk away then, comforting your crying heart that wants to see her walking alongside you, smiling and laughing and giggling, and holding your hands tightly as if she is scared to lose you. And everyone knows that you would have given up anything for that to happen. But even your tears know that not everything. The heart desires it can get. So you fade away like a shadow into a silent eventide. Is this
Sanika, you want to read again or you want to summarize?
yeah, I would like to summarize.
Okay.
It's about some guy who's in love with some girl, and the girl is this is what I could understand. The girl is not with him. He's someone else, and he's blaming himself that he's not enough good for her, and he has some desires, and he thinks about her that if he was with her, and it's all about his sad feelings. That is it. Over to you, Shachita.
Thank you, Toastmaster Sanika. And I think with this, we have come to the end of the reading session. And right, Sayantan?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And we had a wonderful session with Sayantan. So anyone who has any questions to Sayantan can please ask. This is the reading. This is the
Shajita,
question answer. Yeah.
Shajita, voting first.
Yeah. Okay, we have to vote first. Right. With amazing readers, we also have to vote for the best reader. And today we had 6 readers. First is guest Vignesh. Second is guest Sakshi. Third was guest Anusha. Fourth was guest Amrit. Fifth was Toastmaster Abu. And sixth was Toastmaster Sonika. And I hope that Toastmaster Param is just going to roll out the polls. Yeah. Okay. Let us all vote for amazing readers today we had. I hope everyone is voting. And after this, we will be having a question and answer session with Sayantan Das. So keep your questions ready.
Can I close the voting, Shajita, now?
Has everyone voted? Is there anyone who's left?
I think 15 people out of 21 has voted.
Okay.
Sure, Param.
Okay, you
Param,
can
I
close
could
now.
not see that vote. Okay, most probably host is
Because
not
you are the host, Abu.
Okay.
Yeah,
You can close
please
it.
go ahead.
You can close it.
So I'm just sharing the results.
Okay. And the best reader goes to guest Anusha. A round of applause for guest Anusha. Thank you. Thank you all the readers for participating. You all were amazing, no doubt. And now let's move on to our question and answer session. Let's take up questions one by one.
So, have you been interested writing poets since your school time? Since you were going to, as a school student, you had the interest from that time onwards to write poem, or when did you get the interest?
Yes, so I have been writing since I was 11. And I began writing when I started to read. I wanted to write, and that is just how. No fancy beginnings. I just read and I wanted to write, and I used to write anything back then. Obviously, things you can't read because they don't make any sense, but that is how I began writing.
Can I go next? Can I go next?
Sure.
Yeah, so Shantan, I was just listening to your last poem, and it was representing that it was my story. So like a girl is just with some other guy. So is it like if I want to write a poem, so it has to be a real one or it can be an imaginary one? That's the simple question. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for that question, Vimanyu. I love that question. So it can be a up to you. You don't have to always write poetry that is true or that is false. It's totally up to you. I mean, when the famous poet wrote, obviously, when if you read Daffodils by William Wordsworth, it talks about becoming like a cloud and going around the sky. So that can't be real, right? So it's totally up to you. Like once I wrote a poem which you can find on the Instagram as well. So it talked about how I met somebody on a train and that person turned out to be from Pakistan. Now that didn't happen actually, but I just wrote it. And you can find scores of examples where you can also invoke emotions without actually going through it. If you do a bit of research, if you try to imagine it. So it's totally up to you how you want to write.
Anybody else wants to ask a question?
Can I go?
Sure, sure.
Hi, Sayantan. My question to you is, over the years, the meaning of proper poetry has been changing. So how far do you think, and I saw from your poem that you use free verse most of the times, which focus more on the emotions and the words that we're using. So how far do you think that a rhythm and a structure is necessary in a poem?
So it depends upon the writer and the reader actually. Like when you're starting to read poetry, with that start small thing, you would personally want to read poetry which has a rhyming scheme. Then what happens is it is more readable in that way, the more readable approach structure. But as you advance, the more advanced poetry sometimes don't follow that rhyming scheme, although many famous writers again have that rhyming scheme where at least the first and the fourth line rhyme, something of that sort. Now again, free verse is when you're starting, rhyming is something that will attract you and will make reading easy. Even when you're trying to memorize a poem, maybe rhyming will help you. So yes, it's again cannot be defined by any boundaries. So all styles are poetry, and we as readers just need to find out what works the best for us.
Works for us. Thank you.
Anyone else wants a question? Yes, I think guest Vignesh is there.
Who's your favorite poet that you you know?
Thank you for that question. Actually, I don't have a favorite poet as such. I just love reading poetry. I think somebody, Srijita, was only saying that when she reads, she does not like to see who the poet is. So I can relate to it because when I am reading a poetry, I tend to not see who the writer is. And then at the end, I end up loving most of the poetries. Like I love reading the millennial writers. I love listening to the podcasts and I love listening to the open mics that happen. So there is this writer called Yahya Butwala, if you all have heard. He is a very famous Hindi poem which I don't remember the title of, but then that is a poem that will touch your heart. So I don't have a favorite writer as such, but I love reading most of the poetries.
On that note, I have a question. Santan, do you like doing performance poetry or do you prefer it to be read? Like, there's a constant debate that's sort of happening between performance poetry and reading poetry of the gen. Like, just enjoying the poetry in the solitude of your home versus doing it with people at an open mic through performance poetry. What's your take on this?
So I love to do both. Now I live in a city where open mics don't happen regularly. So it's like once in 2 or 3 months. So that's the sad part that I don't get to perform much. And even if they happen, they are like not as good as you'd find in Delhi or Mumbai. So in where I stay, it is more like when you feel nostalgic at 2 a.m. in the night, that time you can read poetry better. But if I get opportunity to recite my poetry and perform it, I definitely do that. Even in the Toastmasters division conference, I did it.
Thank you.
Sayantan, I
Thank
have a question. Sorry, Sajita. Yeah,
no,
do we
no.
have time?
Samrat, do we have time?
Yes,
Samrat,
3 minutes
eh,
left.
no,
Yeah,
no,
it's a
I.
thank you. Yeah, it's a general question. being a poet is natural, or the situations happen to a person make that person a poet? What do you think?
I think that every talent can be acquired across the years. So it is very wrong to say that we are born as poets or we are born as anything, not just in case of poems. You have a talent, you can groom it. You don't have a talent, you can try acquiring it. So if you want to be a poet, read good poetry, start writing on it. It's true for everything, I believe. You don't have to be born with something to be able to do it. It's you who makes your destiny.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Saika. Thank you so much, Sayantan Das, for such a wonderful question and answer session. And without wasting much of the time, I'd like to invite the amazing and the beautiful Toastmasters Shweta Maheshwari, who is going to be the keynote speaker in our next reading session. Toastmasters Shweta, the stage is all yours.
Good evening, everyone. So how are you all? Though I want to apologize for not being so active, but still I have heard each and every word, Sayantan. I really appreciate. I never knew about this. You never told us. We have never come to know about your this talent, but it was wonderful, each and every poetry. Even I do write, not as good as you. I have written few 9 to 10 poetries. I'll share maybe sometime. Okay, so let us talk about me. I'm going to be our next keynote speaker, and I'll be telling you about my book. It is all about transformation and change. See, basically, I understand that change is constant, and I totally believe this. And how you should keep on changing, because you never know what happens, what will come in life, what situations will come in life. So how to cope with that, and how you can transform yourself as per as the need of the time. This is what I'm going to say you, I'll going to talk about my book as well as the need of change. As we can understand these days also, Corona has engulfed us, and how literally we find it bit difficult during the earlier times, but now we are used to it, and now we are doing everything Toastmasters and all. We are rocking. I think these days it is more better. So how sometimes change looks a bit bitter, but it is always sweet.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shweta.
Thank you very much. Yeah,
and we are all excited for your session. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you. We have come to the end of this session, and thank you to each one of you for being part of this wonderful session and making it wonderful by your presence. We had a great session, and all thanks to Sayantan Das. And I'd just like to say that from today, let's, as said by the most famous poet, breathe in experience and breathe out poetry. With this, we come to the end of the session. Let's take a quick picture. I request all of you to please turn on your videos. And Toastmaster Paran, if you can click the picture.
Sure, Shweta.
Yeah.
So it's done.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much, Shweta. Just a quick thing. Shweta, would you like to talk about your book on Kindle?
Yeah. My book, definitely I forgot, Abu. Thanks a lot for reminding me. My book is free on Kindle from today till Saturday, 12 p.m. So everyone can download, read it, and can ask me something about it, means what life learning lessons you will get from it. And if there is any doubt or anything about how to write a book, I just have an experience of only one book, but I will help you out as much as I can. Means how I set my goals to write a book, how I did, because sometimes starting a book is easy, but to complete it is really difficult. Means how you can do that, I will definitely guide you on those points. And please download it because it is free on Kindle till Saturday, 6th June. So all of you are going to get a good opportunity. And also, if you like it, please review on Amazon. Video review will definitely work.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you.
Can you please send us the link for the book?
Yeah, sure. Right now, I will send on the chat window. Just give me a second. I'll just copy
Shweta, if you can send it on the group, so we can
Okay,
all
yeah,
download
sure.
it from our phone.
Sure.
And also,
Yeah,
if you can, Sayantan, if you don't mind, if you can share your Instagram link, so we can follow you, please. Thank you, Abu.
Yeah. Definitely, I'll send the link in the group. Yeah, good. That's a good idea. Thank you so much, everyone. And thank you, Sayantan, so much for lovely poetries. I'll send you, you correct it, whether kya kar sakti hu, what I can do better for my poetry.
Thank you, everybody. It was a wonderful session. Thank you, Abu. Thank you, Shrejita, for that wonderful hosting.
One very important person, Paramjot Singh, Samrit, Gaurav. We can't have the closing without taking their names.
Yes. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, entire South Delhi Toastmasters Club. And I'm excited for the next session.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Sayantan. Thanks, Abu.
Thank you so much, people. That will be all from our end. We'll see you next Tuesday. The time remains the same. Let's come with a new ray of hope because, yes, we'll have a life transformation session with no other than Shweta Maheshwari. That will be all from our end. Thank you so much, people. God bless us.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye-bye for now. Yeah.
Bye-bye. A round of applause for Shrejita, please.
Yeah,
What an
sure.
amazing
Definitely.
host.
She deserves it.
Very good. Thank you so much, people. Bye-bye.
Goodbye. Goodbye.